Hello, students. How are you all? Today we are going to study our fifth poem, our Kashrina Tree, written by Torudutt. Now we will know more about Torudutt. She was born on 4th March 1856 and died on 31st August 1877. Her full name was Toru Leda Dutt. She was a Bengali poet. She was the youngest child of her parents. She had one brother and one sister. She used to write in English, French, and Bengali. Her family became Christian in 1862. She got educated in London. Last 4 years of her life, she wrote. Toru Dutt, despite having a short life, made her poetry to live long as a testimony of her literary credential. Toru Dutt, born on March 4, 1856, was a poet, novelist, essayist, translator, and the first Indian poetess to write in French and English. She contributed regularly to the Poets' Corner of the Bengal Magazine and the Calcutta Review, publishing a series of English translations of French poetry between March 1874 and March 1877. Although she died at the tender age of 21 in 1876, she has produced an impressive collection of poetry and prose within the short period of life. Children, what is the theme of this poem, Our Kashrina Tree? It's a poem published in 1881 by Toru Dutt, an Indian poet. In this poem, she celebrates the majesty of the Kashrina tree that she used to see by her window and remembers her happy childhood days spent under the tree and revives her memories with her beloved siblings. It still remains one of the most popular poems in modern Indian literature. This poem is one of Dutt's most famous poems and it describes a tree near the speaker's home that she associates heavily with the memories of her childhood and her siblings that have since died. Children, in this line, we can understand it. Who now in blessed sleep, for I repose. The word our in the title hints at this significance. It is not just an ordinary tree for the poet, but rather a part of her life, an integral part of her childhood that she shared with her siblings. The poem's opening lines describe the grandeur of the Kashrina in minute detail, standing erect and wearing the scarf of the creeper that clutches it like a huge python. Children, are you seeing this tree? Yes. The tree is a source of life filled with birds and bees, though the children who used to play under its branches are long gone. This liveliness that surrounds the tree is further detailed in the second stanza, which tells of a baboon, kokilas, and cows in its vicinity. Still, in the third stanza, the speaker tells us explicitly, that means expressly, that at the thought of her siblings' deaths and their past memories, even the trees seem to lament, here crying, and ushers forth an eerie. Here, eerie means a strange speech. Now, children, let us study this poem in detail. See the first stanza. I'll read it for you. Like a huge python winding round and round the rugged, here rugged means having a rough and irregular surface. Trunk, indented means lined with deep with scars. Up to its very summit near the stars, a creeper climbs in whose embraces bound. Bound means encircled. No other tree could live, but gallantly the giant wears the scarf, and flowers are hung in crimson clusters all the boughs among, whereon all day are gathered bird and bee. And oft at nights the garden overflows with one sweet song that seems to have no close, sung darkling, here darkling, growing dark in the dark, from our tree while men repose. Repose means rest. See the explanation. The first stanza of this poem begins with the image of the tree. The poet remembers the tree being wounded by a creeper like a python. You can see that in the picture, isn't it? A creeper on that tree like a python. She is telling that it is like a python snake. Its hold was too tight, for it had left the scar on the trunk, that mark. The poet further states that no other tree would have sustained this hold, for it is too strong, but her tree did. For this tree, no problem for this, with this creeper. Also, the giant means the tree, has proudly worn those scars like a scarf, representing its strength. To further describe its strength, the poet says it is filled with crimson flowers. See the flowers in this tree, children? In every bough, like a crown that invited birds and bees. Often at night, when the poet could not sleep, she used to listen to the music that filled her garden as if it has no end. Children, now we will move to the second stanza. Listen. When first my casement here window is wide open thrown, at dawn my eyes delighted on it rest stop. Sometimes and most in winter on its crest. Crest means the highest point of the branches. A grey baboon sits statue-like alone, watching the sunrise, while on lower boughs his puny, small and weak offspring leap about and play. That means the children. And far and near kokilas. What is this kokilas? Cuckoos. Hail the day. Hail the day. And to their pastures wend. Here wend to move slowly and not directly. Wend our sleepy cows. And in the shadow on the broad tank cast a shadow thrown by the tree. By that hoar tree, or old and grey tree, so beautiful and vast, the water lilies spring like snow enmassed. Enmassed here in a mass or all together. Now, this second stanza details the experiences of dawn which delighted the poet. Every morning, as she opens her window, her eyes rest on the tree and delighted. Morning, she will open her window and she will see that tree, then she will be happy. She presents the picture of the changing scene with the seasons. Sometimes during other seasons and mostly during winter, she has seen a baboon sitting on the top branch like a statue, waiting to receive the first array of sunlight, one animal. Whereas his puny offspring That means that animals, children, plays around in the lower branch of the tree. Along with this scenic beauty, the poet also experienced the kokila's welcoming note. She has also observed the cows guided towards the pastures and the water lilies spring under the shadow of the hot tree like gathered snow. So all these things she will see from her room. Children, now see the third or here last stanza. Listen, I will read it for you. But not because of its magnificence, dear is the Katrina to my soul. Beneath it we have played, though years may roll, O sweet companions, loud with love intense. For your sakes shall the tree be ever dear, blend here combined with your images, it shall arise in memory till the hot tears blind mine eyes. What is that dirge like murmur? Here, dirge like murmur, a mournful sound that I hear like the sea breaking on a shingle beach. What is this shingle beach, children? Beach filled with small rounded pebbles. It is a tree's lament, tree's cry, and eerie speech. Eerie already I told what's the meaning? Eerie, strange and frightening speech that haply to the unknown land may reach. See children, in this stanza the speaker turns more subjective in the memory associated with this tree. She comments on why the tree will remain dear to her always. Besides the morning bliss, the tree reminds her of the time she played with her siblings, her brother and sister. The tree, blended with the memory of them, gives her the images of the intense love they shared. That means this poet and her brother and sister, leaving the poet in tears. Now her brother and sister, they are no more, they died. Now she is alone. That's why she is crying. The poet mourns for those departed souls as she thinks down the memory lane, and she imagines that the tree shares her loss, which she hears as dirge like murmur. That meaning I told, a mournful sound, resembling the waves breaking on a pebble beach. So children, our Katrina tree by Toru Dutt celebrates her reminiscence of a happy childhood in India with her beloved siblings. This poem published in her collection of poems Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan in 1882. The tree is used as a symbolic representation of the poet's past memories and the rich tradition of Indian culture and philosophy, a prevalent idea present in Dutt's poetry. Okay, children, this poem is over. Did you understand this poem, children? Recite this poem many times. Okay, study the notes. Okay, bye. Thank you, children.